Okay, so what I want to do is I want to do a quick review of our Lifepak 12, which we're going to be utilizing in class. So you guys are familiar with all the functions, buttons, everything like this. So I'm going to try and get this to a view where you guys can see. Pretty straightforward where I want to do, but I want to make sure you guys are all comfortable and be able to use everything on here. So starting from this side here, power button. Basically press and hold, that'll turn it on. Press and hold, that shuts it off. Get it started up, it'll pop up onto our leads. Okay, second area I want you to go to is the lead button right here. When we click on the lead button, right over here it brings up our options of what we have. And basically we have a couple of different settings here. Now I'm using this dial here. I can press the lead button itself and I can move through the functions, or I can use this dial, which I like to use the dial because it stays away from this area here. So basically where I like to set this up is down here on 2-3 AVF. So I click the button and there we go. So now I have my lead 2, I have my lead 3, and I have AVF. So that's a standard setting we use in a lot of places. So if you do that, that's going to give you a good idea, great tracings. You can see a lot of different things with those leads. So that's what we're going to have on the monitor. So that's a quick setup. I want you to be familiar with this one. Okay, so we've got that. If you don't have 2-3 and AVF on some of the monitors, just use lead 2. That works out really good. Next thing I want to talk about down here is you have the advisory and the analyze button. These I never want you guys to need to use. This basically is converting this as an AED, and now you guys are going to be analyzing the rhythm. So I don't want to see you guys pushing analyze. I want you to look at here and give me an analyze of what the rhythm is. Okay, coming down this side, energy select. So if we're going to defibrillate, cardiovert, this would be the barrier we're going to hit. And normally what I'll do is I'll just press on the button and my rate will come up here. I like to use the wheel down in this area because I can dial through whichever rate I need to set it up on. So this is where I go. Once I pick my rate that I want to start, I press the button and it's set at that rate. So now I charge, press the charge button, and it'll it'll charge to that 200. I press the shock button and it defibrillates. That's defibrillation. Pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Now if I want to do a cardioversion, I need to time that event at a specific time. So I'm going to press the sync button. So my sync button is activated. I should see markers on every R wave so I can time it, and you can see that on lead 2 on the top. Now if I want to start off, I want to start off at about 100 joules. I can click it in, or I can just hit charge. Now it's charging to 100 joules. The difference here is if I just press the shock button, it doesn't go off. So when I'm synchronized cardioversion, because it's timed, I press and I hold the shock button until that cardioversion is delivered. And then the sync goes away. So if I want to re-cardiovert, stack shocks, I have to press the sync button again, recharge it, and this time I'm going to probably increase my joules. Okay. And if I want to dump the charge, I just press this button here and my charge went away. So if I charge my monitor and I end up not shocking, I just press that button and it'll dump the charge so it's gone. Next I want to talk about pacer. So if I want to pace this rhythm, I'm going to click pace. It's going to pop up a rate. I can do a rate somewhere between 60 and 80 is where I want to go. So 80 or 70 is a good rate for me. So I click that button and it immediately goes to the milliamps. You can also see that I'm trying to pace and I get my area up here. If I were on a bradycardic rhythm, as I turn my wheel, you can see the milliamps go up and I get my pacer spike on the monitor. As I increase my milliamps, and I'll slowly increase them until I get that pacer spike, And once every pacer spike has a QRS, and I see what I did to myself. I handicapped myself over here. So there we go. I had it set so my pacer wouldn't capture. So now I have a spike. I can probably actually turn this down because I don't need it as high now. But if I go too low, I lose that capture. So I want to dial it up until I get capture. And after I get capture, I usually bump it up another 5 milliamps. So now, with every pacer spike, I have a QRS complex. So now that's what's called electrical capture. Then the next thing I want to do is I want to check a pulse. And if I have a pulse, that's called mechanical capture. If I don't have electrical capture or I don't get mechanical capture, I just dump my rhythm, turn off my pacer, and I go back to my underlying rhythm. Okay? So that is basically here. My pause button is if I'm pacing and I want to pause to see what my underlying rhythm is again, to see if anything's changed. I can press that pause button, and then I can press it again, and it'll start pacing again. So that's a set of the buttons over here. Here's my home screen. And basically, anytime I ever want to do something too, I press that home screen and I come back. Down this side, this is my alarms button. If my alarm starts going off, I can click on that. I can put limits on it. Usually what I'm going to do is I'm going to silence that alarm. So I'll dial to silence, press on it. I'll dial how long I want it to be silenced for. This is mostly for training. And then click back to my home screen. And my alarms have been silenced. So I'm good there. I know you guys are reading this in reverse. An events button is I can click an event that's happening. Like I put an ET tube in. I established an IV. I gave epi. I did lidocaine. Nitro, atropine, magnesium, beryllium. I can click on the more button and it gives me more options. So I can click these events so when I do my summary at the end, I can know that these happened, and this gives me real-time documentation on my code summary. So that's another options that you guys have available to you too, is that events button right there. Lastly, I'm going to come across this side. So once I have my patient set up and I want to do a 12 lead, I'll push my 12 lead button. I'll put in the patient's age. And if I had the 12 lead connected, it would look for that area. And I'll go back to my home screen. And it's going to be trying to acquire a 12 lead, but it's there. I shut it off. Okay. My transmit button we're not going to use, but if you have the ability to transmit that to a patient, here actually it did print out a portion of the 12 lead. So I'm going to show you this. So when I did my 12 lead, it was able to get lead 2, lead 3, AVR, AVL, and AVF. So 1, 2, 3, AVR, AVL. It did not get the others because I didn't have the others hooked up, so it could look at certain vectors. My transmit button is only if I have the ability to transmit to the hospital. My code summary, I can print that out, and that's going to get everything set. My print button, obviously, I can print, or if I press it twice, turn it on, turn it off, it'll label some type of event that happened. So it's another option I have. So that's basically a quick review of this monitor, how to use it, and hopefully this was helpful. Any questions, make comments in the discussion area, and we'll talk with you guys later.